Welcome into another New York Yankees feature report presented by WFUV Sports. Lou Orlando joined alongside Brian Rabacs and Will Tallant. We're your Yankees beat reporters for this year. Guys, I wish we were gathered together under way better circumstances. We're here to break some injury news. Last night, Aaron Boone broke after the postgame that both Aaron Judge and Nestor Cortes are headed to the IL. Two pretty big blows for a team that's already dealt with a ton of injuries throughout this season. And hey, let's start with the headline, all right? Aaron Judge going on the IL.
He's got a contusion and a sprain of the ligament, so he had a PRP shot tonight. And then, I mean, the biggest thing now is trying to get the swelling out of there.
So Judge looks like going to be out a couple weeks here, and this is a Yankee lineup that struggled without him in that lineup. Guys, just initial thoughts.
Yeah, so with Judge, I think the most concerning thing is we don't know how long he's going to be out. Obviously, we understand that Aaron Judge is a significant loss to the lineup. And if you look at the numbers from the start of 2022 without Aaron Judge, they're not as good. I don't know if you saw them posted on SportsCenter last night, but 5 runs per game with Judge, 3 without Judge, 755 OPS with Judge, 636 without Judge. 2+291 run differential with Judge, -10 without Judge. So obviously a big loss in the lineup, but we don't know how long he's going to be out. They didn't give a timetable, and the toe injury, it's a weird one where there was no break of the bone, so that's good, but the contusion and the sprain of the toe, it just leaves a lot up in the air. So obviously the Yankees are going to have to piece it together. I think he'll be out maybe a couple of weeks, but the big thing is getting him back as soon as possible. But the thing that's concerning for me, Will, is that we don't know when that is.
Right, Brian. And you say we as beat reporters, but it sounded like we as an Aaron Boone and the Yankees as well. They really don't know what the status is for Judge other than just kind of going day by day. Putting him on the IL yesterday is that first step. So, we'll hear more in the coming days as we go along. And you noted too, Brian, the offensive numbers, they're very glaring without Aaron Judge. They're just over league average with him. And then without him, personally, this is not statistically backed, but this team looks like a 4th place team without him in the lineup. I mean, 3 hits last night, only 2 runs. Lucas Giolito, 100 pitches through 6 innings, no hits and no runs. So obviously, without Aaron Judge, this offense is significantly weaker, as we saw last year as well. Without Aaron Judge, I think this team is an 89 win team. Obviously, he was an 11 win player last year, and he's on pace to do a similar thing like that this year. So a big blow for the lineup, but the Yankees, they have to trust who they have right now. I know it's not looking as what's the right word, illuminated or great as you would like to see, but you just gotta rock with what you have and just keep moving forward. They're lucky it's only the second week in June. So hopefully it's only a few weeks, given that it's just a sprain. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't go any further than that.
All right, Aaron Boone declines to give a time frame, says there's no time frame for Judge's return, but I guess I want to play like translator, maybe code decryptor. Sometimes it feels like you got to do like the whole Da Vinci Code thing when we're breaking down what they're telling us about injuries, and something that Boone kind of said as he was making the Judge injury announcements. He said,
Now we're just see where we are in the coming weeks or days, and then week.
I'm not reading too much into that, right? They gave him the shot during the game yesterday. And so obviously you reevaluate how the shot's going in the next couple of days, but also he's on the IL. It's a sprain. You kind of assume, hey, it's at least 10 days, probably more. So that kind of takes you through next couple of weeks. So I'm not looking at that as like a slip up where he accidentally told us that he's going to be out for longer than we think he's going to be out for. But I know it kind of stood out to you guys. Do you read into any of that?
Maybe a little bit. It's definitely a talking point. It's a narrative to throw out there, especially being in the media. It's something to point out. It could have just been a little slip up. People do that sometimes. But as beat reporters and then as fans as well, definitely Yankee fans, you would look at that and say, whoa, that's hopefully that was just a slip up, because without Judge, like we were just pointing out, it's very bleak in terms of offense. So hopefully that was just a slip up. And as I said, you go day by day. So maybe that's what Boone was, that was his angle, so to say. But yeah, definitely something for me that I look at and say, okay, we're going to take that gingerly right now and see where that goes towards the end of the week, especially with that Red Sox series coming up. Big series for the Yankees, first time they're playing them this year. So you want to take that with a grain of salt, but take it day by day and see how that grain of salt evolves.
I mean, it's also they treat him very carefully. You saw that with the hip when he got hurt in Cincinnati, where he probably wouldn't have gone on the IL if it was playoff push or postseason stuff like that. But they wanted to get him fully healthy, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of it too, where it's like they're not going to rush Judge back. So hey, maybe it takes a few extra days. Maybe you do the full 2 weeks instead of the 10-day stint. Like that's something I could see them doing too.
Well, I feel like if they were going down that road, they would at least be a little transparent about it. Like we've seen in the past when guys are on the IL for 10 days and that's it. Like Stanton got hurt last year in a game against the Orioles in May, and Aaron Boone was very clear this is going to be a 10-day IL stint. We got good news. He's coming back. He didn't give that about Judge. And yeah, he threw out a couple weeks there. So again, it goes back to the uncertainty. They don't know how long it's going to be. So given what we've heard from Aaron Boone, I don't know if he's going to be back within the 10 days. I think the injury is a kind of a weird one where it's not a broken toe, but he jammed it into the concrete at Dodger Stadium pretty badly. So, and we've seen toe injuries in the past. DJ LeMahieu dealt with a toe injury all of last year, and he was on the IL, and then it affected him down the stretch. So this is something that the Yankees are going to have to navigate down the road. And then it just becomes a question of who are you going to have stepping up for Judge for however long he's out? Because that's the big thing that the Yankees are going to have to figure out here, because they're not dealing with just Aaron Judge, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. So a lot of guys that maybe weren't going to be key contributors at a certain point in the year, they're going to have to be relied upon now with absences of Judge amongst others in that lineup.
I mean,
yeah, and you look at the schedule too. It's not undermining any opponents that they're playing, but they do have a more favorable schedule in June.
The hard part of their schedule, they had a really tough May, and now it's kind of they're hitting soft
and they
spot.
got through that. They got through that very, very seamlessly. And you look at it now, you still have 2 more games against the White Sox that are must wins, facing Lance Lynn today, Mike Clevenger tomorrow. Lance Lynn obviously hasn't looked like the Lance Lynn that we've seen over the last 3-4 years, so you got to capitalize on that. Then you have the Red Sox, who are last in the AL East, another series you got to capitalize on. The Mets, same deal, 500 ball, gotta ride. Red Sox again, Mariners, they took 2 of 3, could have been a sweep. And then the biggest one in that 2-week span is the Rangers. You have to, that's your biggest series. That, that's going to be a kind of a toss up. And then Oakland is to follow the Rangers, but that is in Oakland. So I'm not, obviously Oakland, the worst team in Major League Baseball, but you go out there and you play in the Coliseum, not the easiest thing to do in the world, especially, you're going from New York to Oakland and then to St. Louis. That's a lot of moving around. It's a lot of travel. Definitely opponents the Yankees can take advantage of with Aaron Judge being out, but still you gotta be careful. And I think this is not the perfect time, but it's definitely not the worst time for Judge to be hurt. And the Yankees could still squeeze out some wins without him. So we'll see what that is like going forward.
And part of that process is going to have to be, relying on certain guys to step up. That was kind of something that Boone hinted at.
It's another opportunity for someone to step up, and that's all we'll do. We're gonna go out and expect to still go out there and rack up victories.
Who's going to fill that spot? What's interesting about this conversation is that the Yankees are dealing with a ton of outfield injuries right now, right? Harrison Bader has the hamstring strain. Greg Allen hit the IL. I think that happened very quietly. Greg Allen came down with a hip injury, and he's on the IL now too. Yankees have said they didn't want to play Stan in the outfield for the first 2 weeks. So you're looking at your outfield options, and it's like it's Oswaldo Cabrera, it's IKF, it's Jake Bauers, it's Willie Calhoun. There's not a ton of outfield options right now, and something that we had talked about, Will, before. Cole Calhoun, the Yankees did not call up Cole Calhoun by June 1st, so he opts out of the contract, ends up signing with the Dodgers. He was a guy that was raking in the minor leagues, former major leaguer, right? Had some pretty good years with the Los Angeles Angels, played some pretty good defense. He's not in the Yankees minor league system anymore. He's no longer an outfield option.
Right. And he was like you said, great with the Angels, pretty solid with the Diamondbacks, played last in the major leagues last year with the Texas Rangers. But definitely a guy that was high power, great defense too. And I think there's still a little left in the tank. He's 35 years old. He'll be 36 in October, but that doesn't really matter. This was definitely a guy that for me, I saw as this could be another kind of Matt Carpenter situation where you get a guy who's trying to find himself again back on a major league roster, and the Yankees found that guy. He had over, I believe, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was over an 850 or 900 OPS in AAA. The guy was raking. And Jake Bauers obviously was there before Cole Calhoun, and he's come up and done a pretty solid job offensively. Defensively, still has some question marks there to address, and that's why I really liked Cole Calhoun being that option to come up, because that's a bona fide outfielder who has won a Gold Glove in the past. So defense is definitely something that I wanted to point out with him, aside from his power numbers. And like I said, a guy that, really could have been a good offensive option. The Yankees lose that. He opts out in June 1st for his June 1st opt-out. The Yankees decided to not pick him up, like you said, Lou. And I don't really agree with that move. And now he's moved on. So the Yankees are going to have to mix and match and find more guys to be that next man up that we've kind of seen with this team for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, the Cole Calhoun situation, I'm surprised I didn't at least entertain the idea of calling up, because he, as you mentioned, he was excelling in AAA. And usually, I mean, we've seen this year when guys are doing well in AAA, they've called them up. Jake Bauers was doing great in AAA in April. They brought him up, and he's been on the big league team since. But yeah, to see Cole Calhoun, especially a veteran guy with major league experience like Cole Calhoun, it's a bit weird that he didn't necessarily get the call. And you mentioned with some of the other outfield options they have on the roster now, with the defensive concerns with Jake Bauers, and then offensive concerns with a couple of those outfielders, it would make sense to bring Cole Calhoun up. And especially even after the injury of Bader, it just is a bit interesting to see them go in this direction. And you wish you could have him now with Aaron Judge out. So it just is going to be on Cole Calhoun's not an option. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jake Bauers carrying the load for the next couple of weeks? He's been hitting very well as of late, so you have to be encouraged by that. Oswaldo Cabrera hit a home run his first game since getting called back up after having to immediately come back after Greg Allen got hurt. So there's that. So there's a lot of uncertainty with what the Yankees have in their outfield right now. Obviously, there's no ideal time to lose Aaron Judge, but it's going to come down to guys stepping up. And I keep going back to that. They're going to need either Jake Bauers, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Oswaldo Cabrera, or a Willie Calhoun to step up in there. And they can't replicate Aaron Judge, but to keep the Yankees afloat in these next however long it may be would be huge.
And I want to point out with Cole Calhoun, I just got those stats up. In 23 games in Scranton, he had 4 home runs and 18 RBIs. He slashed 281, 391, and 528 with a 919 OPS. So definitely an even bigger question mark for me as to why this guy didn't get a chance on the big league roster, even with as many injuries as they've had, especially to their outfield. But I do admire, and we will do this in a future report as we've been talking about, IKF's versatility. He's looked very solid in the outfield, and offensively, he had a great month of May. So definitely a guy I want to see the Yankees give more opportunities, and they're kind of forced to at this point. So got to move him all around. He's played a little bit of left and definitely a lot of center, but I would expect to see him slot into right field more now.
Yeah, I mean, how huge has that been, IKF's versatility, now that you've had all the injuries to the outfield? The fact that you have a guy that can play center and play left. We haven't seen him play right. So, yeah, I am interested to see if he can do that, Will, like you were saying. So, IKF's been big. And then, Lou, if you have something.
I mean, I think they have to play him in center, don't they? Like, who are their other center field options?
That is true. Yeah, he does have
until Bader comes back. Until Bader comes back.
Right, and
we don't know when Bader's coming
he's
back.
Not even on track for Friday. Like, I think IKF is locked into center field unless you want to even I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe experiment with Oswaldo Cabrera because he's athletic. But I mean, we kind of just talked about, right? Like Jake Bowers and Willie Calhoun really don't give you much defensively. I don't think they really even wanted to play Willie Calhoun in the outfield until they had to. And the defensive metrics for Bowers haven't been much better. And then again, we talk about Stanton. They don't even want to put Stan in the outfield just yet. They're kind of easing him back in. Like your outfield options defensively are very slim. And so I think you're kind of very restricted with who you can put out there.
And
Right. And now it looks like the DFAing of Aaron Hicks looks to be a bad decision more than a good one. He
That
wasn't,
might be
obviously,
another
we know he
report coming
wasn't
up
that
too.
great. Yeah, we'll get to it. But I just got to point it out in terms of depth, what we're talking about here and versatility. You know, we went from having more options in the outfield, we as in the Yankees, with Aaron Hicks, IKF, Oswaldo Cabrera, you know, name them all. And obviously, Aaron Hicks kind of ran out of town. He batted 188. You know, that's not going to cut it. Now on Baltimore, 5 games, batting over 400, a 500
crazy.
on base, a 1200 OPS, and very small sample size, obviously, compared to his Yankees tenure in 2023. But it just makes that move look like, wow, maybe this wasn't something that we should have done just yet.
One last quick thing. Is there a lane now for a Estevan Florial return, right? He's a guy that can play center field. We always joke about he's like that quad A guy. He's crushing it in AAA again. It's never come together in the big leagues, but we've seen that he's fast. We've seen that he can play a solid center field. Do the Yankees entertain calling up Florial?
I think you got to. I think they have to. They're very tight right now. They're very handcuffed
I
in this
think
department.
that you have to.
So yeah, you got to pull the trigger on that. Obviously, Lou, like you said, we know him to be this guy that's just great in AAA, and then he gets the majors, and it's just not there. But at this point, it's, you know, I think you got to sacrifice that bat that he doesn't present in the major league level, and just rock with the defense and the athleticism that he brings to the table, because you need everything that you can get with your $300 million man out of your lineup.
Well, and the good thing about bringing up Florial is that we were just talking about how IKF's really their only option to play center field. With Florial, you can add another option. So if you put him back on the roster over a Franchi Cordero, then it gives you another option in the outfield, and it gives you another chance to see what you have. I know that they've called Estevan Florial up a lot, and he's been at the big league level up and down throughout his tenure. And I think he's got one option left. So this would be really their last look at Estevan Florial.
This also feels like his last year with them anyway. Like it feels like they've almost like given up on him being someone that matters for this franchise.
Right. So
like, when are you going to come up?
Exactly. And like now is as good a time as any. He's doing well in AAA, and you need another option in center field with Greg Allen, Harrison Bader, and Aaron Judge all hurt. I mean, it feels like it makes sense, but we'll see what the corresponding move. They haven't put Judge on the IL officially yet, so we'll see if it's Florial's corresponding move, if it's Franchi Cordero, but we'll see that in the coming days.
And then, you know, the other part of this, and it kind of gets hidden a little bit by obviously Aaron Judge going on the IL. That's going to take all the headlines. Nestor Cortes also going into the IL with a shoulder strain. I think, you know, the interesting part about a lot of these quotes, it's that the injury was hampering his ability to recover from starts.
During start, it wasn't bothering me. It was just the recovery in between where it would take a little bit longer than usual to get right. Just the bounce back was tough. It just got harder to get non-sore.
And the big narrative with Nestor Cortes this year is that he hasn't been able to pitch deep into games, whether it's the numbers third time through the lineup or just the numbers once you get past the 5th inning. Both of those are bad. And to hear Nestor talk about how, yeah, for a few starts, the recovery process for the first couple of days was a little tough. And then it got aggravated to the point where after the Seattle start, it took him 3 to 4 days and it still felt as if he had just pitched. Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this Nestor Cortes shoulder strain is kind of part of the reason he's been struggling.
Oh, I think it's a significant reason that he's struggled. I mean, it alludes to what we've kind of seen out of him the whole season, where he kind of gets fatigue, later in the games. He's just not able to give the same thing that he does first time through the order, second time through the order, first 4 innings, whatever you want to call it. He's kind of labored through a couple of these starts. And the numbers point to that, where third time through the order, he's gotten rocked. Hitters are slugging over 1,000 off of him the third time through the order. So with Nestor Cortes, we've seen him kind of labor through these starts and not be able to push through in the later innings like we saw last year, where he was able to do it. So I think the shoulder has been a pretty significant issue for him this year, and it's probably been bothering him for a while. I don't want to speculate, but I would definitely think that this has been a key component that Nestor's been fighting through the whole season, and he's a really tough competitor, so he's going to go out and do it. But I think we have more clarity on the struggles and concerns that we've had with Nestor Cortes as the season's gone on so far in the first couple of months.
And you look at his game logs too. He's only pitched through the sixth 4 times. He's gone 6 complete in 3 starts and 7 and 1. Other than that, it's been 4 2/3 to 5 1/3. And I'm not saying that, his injury in the beginning contributed to that. Obviously, you want to go they're going to have him at some kind of innings limit like they did last year. Probably the same now. If you look at it from April, it would have increased from what it was last year. But now he's laboring, and they're already short on starters. They've been short the entire year since spring training. And I think we were talking about it last night. I think the shoulder problem with Nestor is the reason why he is not pitching as well. I just personally don't think that these lineups, especially the opponents that he's been facing, have been able to figure out the legend of Nestor Cortes. I don't think anybody has been able to do that. And you want to have a pitcher like Nestor Cortes that understands his body when he's right, but also when he understands his body when he's wrong. If it takes him 1 to 2 days to recover from a start, great. I'm glad you know that. But if it's taking you 3 to 4 days, I like that you know that even more. And that just shows that he knows his body very well. And those are the kind of guys that you need in your rotation. And it's, I'm glad that he spoke up when he did. He obviously, like you said, Brian, he's definitely a competitor, because if this has been bothering him for as long as he said that it has, you probably could have spoke up sooner. But he wants to win, and he goes out there, and the Yankees win pretty much every single time that he's out there, with the exception of 4 different games. So, it's definitely a guy that you need in your rotation, and the type of pitcher that you want to see. That understands his body, understands when he's ready to go again, and obviously he's not ready to go right now.
And you start to do the mental math. 15 days no throw. I think you're almost looking at a full month without Nestor Cortes, and that's another huge blow to this rotation that has yet to see Carlos Rodon return. Just got Luis Severino back, right? We're talking about the Yankees still kind of struggling to find consistent arms, and despite Nestor Cortes' struggles, he was a consistent piece in this rotation that you could trust to go out there and pitch every 5th day. And now I'd say you're losing him for about a month. So that's, again, another tough blow for a Yankees team that's just been riddled with injuries this year.
Well, also with Nestor going down, and this kind of just came to me, but who's a lefty that the Yankees are going to have in the starting rotation? They don't have a lefty option. They have Garrett Cole. You know what you're getting out of him. And then it goes Domingo Germán, Luis Severino, Clark Schmidt. And then I think Randy Vasquez is going to get a spot start soon, but I don't really know what
until Rodon
they don't
comes
have a
back,
guy that can get lefties out.
And until Rodon comes back, I think you don't have a lefty in the rotation.
And that's always up in the air with whether Rodon's coming back. We just don't know. He's getting good signs that he's able to face hitters. I think he's facing hitters soon, so that's encouraging. But yeah, as of right now, you don't have a lot of lefties, not only just in your rotation, in your bullpen as well. You really have Wandy Peralta, and then who else are you going to? So they're going to have to kind of fight their way through it. They might have some tough times getting lefties out in the next couple of weeks, guys.
Yeah, a left-handed pitching was definitely a weak spot for this team going into the season. And as you guys pointed out with Rodon, he obviously looks to be on track to coming back hopefully soon. But yeah, no options. And let me just throw this out there. This makes this Frankie Montas trade look even worse now. He's not going to be back until maybe September. We may not even get Frankie Montas. And who did they trade in that package? J.P. Sears and Ken Waldichuk, 2 guys that are on Oakland's pitching staff that are left-hand options. Not saying that they would be spectacular or amazing, but they would be options on the left side of the rubber. So, it makes some of these moves that the Yankees have made recently kind of scratch your head and say, well, now we're kind of in a pickle.
And it does hurt your heart a little bit to hear Nestor Cortes say,
It's a bummer that I have to sit out for a few weeks. Felt like I was finally getting into the groove of things and pitching better, so just gonna have to wait.
despite the fact that the third time through the order stuff had still been lingering, I thought that you look at the first 5 innings of his last 3 to 4 starts, it felt like he had maybe started to turn the corner where you could at least get hopeful that I think you were still having, again, the concerns about him going deep, but you saw the Nestor of old in spurts, so it does kind of sting a little bit. And I think one last injury news that, I don't know how big it is compared to Judge and Nestor, but
Weber's got a UCL strain. Now it's a matter of course of action. If it's going to be, rehab, time down, surgeries on the table.
This is the Yankees bullpen. Ian Hamilton went down with the injury earlier. Now Ryan Weber, who had actually found success kind of pitching a little bit below that average miles per hour that we usually see in the big leagues, kind of pitching below the bat speed a little bit. And now all of a sudden surgery is on the table. I don't know how big of a deal breaker this is for the Yankees, but it's something to be aware.
Well,
I don't think it's massive. It's not a massive blow. Only pitched in 13 games as a Yankee last year. Very sharp. Looked very good. This year, an increased role. And he's looked very solid again. So, I don't think it's a total massive blow to that bullpen. But once again, we're struggling with depth in terms of the Yankees. They're struggling mightily in that department. So anybody that goes down, and especially with surgery being an option, you don't want to hear that.
You never want to hear surgery is on the table. That means that we're dealing with something pretty serious. So it's not just a simple arm issue that's going to be resolved in a week or two. Like, he's probably going to be out for, I think, months. We can use that term, because surgery, that would be a long time. But if we're thinking about that, I don't expect him back on a mound soon. But he's been good this year for the Yankees. I mean, in his 8 appearances, 3.14 ERA, and I know they don't rely on him in high leverage situations, but there have been moments where he's had to get in there. The circumstances have allowed it to happen, and he's done well. And he's also one of the guys in that bullpen that can give you innings, and the Yankees really focus on that, like having guys give you length when you need to stay away from your high leverage guys like Wandy Peralta and Clay Holmes and Michael King. So that's not a great blow for the Yankees. I mean, they're losing a guy that can eat innings, and now you look at who they have. They have Michael King, and then outside of that, I don't know who they're gonna have bulk up on these innings. Like, can they have Ron Marinaccio go a couple innings? We've seen him do that, so it's going to be interesting. It's another piece of the bullpen that the Yankees are going to have to piece together, but we'll see. But yeah, bad news on Ryan Weber. You never want to hear surgery on the table for anybody.
And I want to point out too, it's not a huge stat, but because the Yankees have kind of been rolling with this closer by committee kind of situation all year, it's between the 3, like you said, Brian, Holmes, Peralta, and King. Ryan Weber, 4 games finished this year and a save recorded. That should not go unnoticed. The fact that you are able to put him out there in the 9th at least 4 times and shut the door and get those 3 outs and even get a save, that's really important in my eyes. Because those 3 guys in Holmes, Peralta, and King can't do it every single time. Obviously, the Yankees do not have that nails closer. So you got to roll with what you have, kind of like the big narrative that we've been addressing this entire show here. And I find the games finish stat to be pretty important, especially with Ryan Weber. So hopefully surgery is not on the table, but a UCL strain that kind of smells like Tommy John in a way. Don't want to throw that out as the thing, but anything that involves the ulnar collateral ligament, it's always TJ or an extended absence.
Yeah, so just to recap all the news that we've gotten the last couple of days, Judge headed to the IL, contusion and a sprain in the toe. Looks like 2 weeks, could be more. Nestor Cortes, shoulder strain. Feels like that closer to a month. Ryan Weber, UCL strain. No updates on Harrison Bader, but not coming back as early as Friday, so he'll be out a little bit longer. Greg Allen's still on the IL. So Yankees once again hit with some injuries. We'll see if they can keep some of that magic going, be able to pick up some wins here, but it looks like they'll be heavily depleted the next couple of weeks. Guys, I think that's going to do it for us. Hopefully next time we meet and do a report, it'll be under better circumstances. But Brian, Will, I thank you so much for coming on, me guys.
Great.
Always a
Great
pleasure.
to talk to you guys. And we'll just see how these injuries impact the Yankees in the next coming weeks.
Always fun talking ball with you guys. Yeah, gotta pray. You gotta pray. That's what you gotta do. Hopefully they manage in June like they did in May. So
once again, this Yankees injury report is a production of WFUV Sports.